Greetings. You're listening to Rebels Remembered, featuring Caitlin DeFord and Kelsey DeFord.
Greetings, travelers across the galaxy. I am Kelsey.
I am Caitlin.
And this is Rebels Remembered. And we are at the season finale of season 2. And there's a lot to talk about and to unpack in this episode.
There's a lot.
So, if you made it here, thank you for getting this far with us. So the season finale of season 2 is called Twilight of the Apprentice. It is episode 21 and 22. It's a two-parter. This originally aired on March 30th, 2016. After gaining information about the Sith, Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka battle the Inquisitors with the help of a new ally, but are overmatched when Vader arrives. So, 2 spoilers in that, kind of, but if you're doing the rewatch, you kind of already know.
Just know that we hope that you watched the episodes before you listen to us, because
especially this one.
Yeah, there's spoilers in this.
Spoilers.
So
this was written by Dave Filoni, Simon Kinberg, and Stephen Melching. If you want to lead us in with the trivia.
Alrighty. So the conversation that Ahsoka has with Rex at the beginning mirrors their first conversation in the Clone Wars film, which I have not seen. I've seen the clip of it, though, and it mirrors. It's like, I definitely outrank you. That same banter it's like their first meeting. And I think people knew going into this, something's obviously going to happen to Ahsoka, because that's kind of like a closing with them for now.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah. Another thing about trivia that I just wanted to add here, it might be my own theorizing here, but the name of the episode is Twilight of the Apprentice. Okay, for me that could have 2 meanings.
Yeah.
It could be talking about Ahsoka and her journey, because she was the apprentice of Anakin and she confronts Vader in this episode. Mm-hmm. But it also is talking about Ezra's journey, I think, too.
Right, yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
And even the language of, like, Twilight. I don't know when Twilight is in terms of the sky. I want to say it's right before or right after sunset, as the sun is going down, because there's a lot of sunsets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like sunset in terms of what we think will be the end of Ahsoka's journey, and possibly Ezra going down a path that we didn't initially expect him to do.
Yeah. So we start this episode with, like I said earlier, Ahsoka and Rex conversating about Malachor. Ezra questions, because they're listening in to their conversation, I guess. And Ezra questions why Rex is so worried. And this is where we talked about this last episode, like how they knew what Malachor was.
Yeah.
And Kanan and Ahsoka tell him that legend claims Malachor to be a dangerous place for a Jedi. And then Ezra asks, well, if it's off limits, why would Master Yoda send us here? And Kanan says, well, I trust Master Yoda, there must be something here for us. And Ahsoka says knowledge, which this concept of knowledge plays throughout, I want to call it knowledge.
Yeah.
Throughout these 2 episodes.
And I think it does, for a little bit, the last episode Shroud of Darkness, I believe, when they go to the other temple. Ezra thinks Malachor is a person, and then that's when Ahsoka says, no, it's a place. We didn't really get Kanan's input on that, but I guess this established that both of them know of it, but they've never been to it because of the legend surrounding it.
Mm-hmm. So they land on Malachor, and they find these, like, weird-looking pillars.
Obelisk or something.
Obelisk is a better word, sticking out of the ground. And Ahsoka says it's got text written in the old tongue on them. Ahsoka can only make out a few words, but before she can finish them, Ezra reaches out and places his hand on the pillar, and that's when we have this red lighting, and they kind of fall through the surface of the planet, which is kind of creepy. I'm going down a rabbit hole here for a minute. The design of Malachor, which I read somewhere about Dave Filoni, is one thing he referenced, which is very eerie, is Dante's Inferno, and also the underworld.
I just now made that connection. Wow, I didn't think about that.
And I think that comes across in the visuals.
Oh yeah, because it's technically underground, right?
Mm-hmm. They see a gleaming red peak at the top of a top of a pyramid in the distance. And Ahsoka, this is when she tells them we're in a Sith Temple. They walk closer to investigate, and Chopper informs them that he's picked up the trail of an incoming ship. Kanan worries that they soon won't be alone. Ahsoka explains to Ezra that this knowledge they are seeking is the forbidden kind, and she says, to feed your enemy, you have to understand them.
That line is said quite a bit in this episode. I can think of 2 more instances where it's used, and it's used again in season 3 by a well-known person.
Yes.
As well.
Pressing onward, they discover the ground of their surroundings is scorched. Ezra finds a green-bladed crossguard lightsaber. Kanan says this was a battlefield. It has, like, these, like, people that are, like, this looks like they're in stone.
Yeah, it looks
essentially.
like, yeah.
Like Pompeii.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, some, like, literally, like, just frozen, like, not frozen, but, yeah, encased in some sort of stone or ash or something.
Ahsoka believes that a battle took place when the Jedi attacked the Sith Temple, but it ended in a draw. Ezra believes the whole planet is some sort of riddle. That's when this new Inquisitor appears. Suddenly the ground falls through again, sending Ezra abruptly down another level of the temple. And this part was really animated really interestingly.
Yeah. Plus, how many levels are we going below? Because they already were really above, fell a good, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say 50 feet. Look, but they survived it, so I guess it's, I don't know. But then there's, like, more levels below that, so how big is this thing? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're talking about the animation of this scene.
Yeah, when right before, I can't remember if he planted a explosive or something, but Ezra, like, hides behind one of the... It's this really cool motion where he, like, slings around and hides behind one of the this frozen dude or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it collapses beneath him, but, like, the colors and the way... I don't know, it looked really cool.
Yeah, like the sparks and stuff. It looked really cool.
Where Ezra's at, he sees a slumped over and shrouded figure. And the stranger's voice says...
He might have an odor. He's
I
probably
didn't mean to
been
say odor. He might have an odor. He might stink, yeah. And he says, please put your weapon away. I mean you no harm. So, obviously, spoiler alert, this is Darth Maul. And I love how the reveal of him in this episode, he starts with this first conversation with Ezra as... creepy old dude, like, I'm weak and I don't have anything, I don't know what I'm doing, like, and I feel like you, well, I didn't know it was Maul. Did you know it was Maul?
I did. Yeah, I could tell by the voice.
I heard speculation, but I still didn't really truly believe it.
I think in one of the trailers, it has the line, call me old master. Right when I heard that, I was like, that's probably Darth Maul, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, Sam Witwer, who voices Darth Maul, and voiced him in the Clone Wars, I could just tell.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. Wasn't a big surprise for me, but I do like how he gradually starts to reveal more of his figure and himself throughout before he turns to Ezra and has that... Ugh. So if you didn't know about me, I had a childhood fear of Darth Maul growing up. Phantom Menace terrified me. I would not watch it because Darth Maul freaked me out so bad. And it's interesting because I believe the guy that designed Darth Maul for Phantom Menace, that was his second design for him. His first design is incredibly terrifying because George Lucas said, I want you to draw your worst nightmare. And then George looked at it and goes, draw your second worst nightmare because that one's a little bit too much.
Whoa.
So, yeah. So, anyway, very creepy dude, but I do like the way how it's sort of, like, you get little pieces before the reveal is kind of finally done.
Of course, Ezra doesn't know him. He remains guarded, and the figure tells him he has been living alone in the dark for years without speaking to anyone. His ship crashed, and he's been stranded here. But he knows Ezra's motives. You came here for the same reason I did years ago. You seek knowledge. I have a lot of questions more than answers.
Yeah.
Of how he got there, what's he doing there, how did he get stranded there?
Well, he went from Siege of Mandalore happened, Season 7 Clone Wars. He gets away, obviously. He fights Ahsoka for a little bit, then he gets away. Then he becomes a crime lord for a long time. Like, the Shadow Collective falls apart, but he gets, like, Black Sun, and then he creates Crimson Sun, which is his whole thing in Han Solo. He's spoiler alert, in the Han Solo movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's revealed that he's the... Then he gets away from the crime lord. Then he's in prison in the Dark Spire. Then he gets out. Then he figures out about this holocron and is like, I'm going to search for this. And then somehow he gets stranded here. But Inquisitors...
Wait, did you say he was searching for a holocron?
Yes.
Is it this one?
I believe it's this one, but he keeps having the Inquisitor sent on his tail as well.
Oh, okay.
So they've been looking for him for a while.
The knowledge Ezra seeks is in the temple, but the old man says he can't open the door without his help. He then tells him his name. He says, just call me Old Master. And then I think Ezra's like, call me Jabba. Because he doesn't trust him.
Very not trusting him. And I do like the part where he, like, ignites the lightsaber immediately. Like, it's just immediate go-to.
What is down here? So while that's going on, Kanan and Ahsoka are chasing the Inquisitor. But they have this moment where it's like, Kanan's like, well, I don't think he was looking for us. And you have this creepy part where Ahsoka says, well, who's he tracking? Probably that creepy dude that Ezra just ran into. Chopper interrupts on the comm and Kanan orders him to find this mysterious ship that he's tracked. Then we go back to Ezra and Old Master discussing the Inquisitors. The man tells Ezra that all Inquisitors and their masters are his enemy, leading Ezra to guess he may be a Jedi or a Sith. Like, he even says, you're Sith then. And then Maul kind of goes into this monologue about how the Sith took everything from him, murdered his brother, used him as a weapon, and cast me aside. So I feel like here he generally is telling him his life story in the shortest way possible.
Yeah.
But also
yeah.
I feel like he's trying to
plant the seeds.
Yes.
Of manipulation and things. So I think he is coming across as very genuine, but he's also let me like fill out the little playing field here and putting these things of it's throughout the entire episode. Well, you can't save your friends if you don't do this.
Yeah.
And it'd be so much easier if you did it this way, even though that's a bad path. But, you know, I think Ezra gets a lot of hate for this episode because he doesn't know who Darth Maul is. The rest of us, Star Wars fans, we know that he's a bad dude, you know.
Right.
Ezra doesn't know that. He doesn't know who this person is.
But yeah, you're right. We know who he is, but he does not. Which I think gives the audience that know who he is this sense of danger and like. And
I think it was good for Taylor Gray not to. I think he was told not to look up a lot of things about Star Wars, which would have been impossible for me if I was in the show.
Yeah.
But he was kind of a little bit in the dark anyway. But that comes across in his like you can't fake that. You can't fake.
Yeah.
Once you know something, you can't unknow it. So.
Yeah.
I think that was a good choice on their part and his part for being able, the reason he's able to deliver things so genuine, like, oh no, we trust him. Like, you know, I trust him. You know, it becomes so genuine because he generally doesn't know a whole lot about this person.
Also,
unless that's just Taylor's got pretty dang good acting and just fake that.
I think what helped him was he was literally, I don't know if you've heard the story that he's told, but he was literally between Freddy and Sam.
Oh.
So you had...
That's a physical representation of what's happening.
Yeah, so you literally had Sam over here saying... Because Sam Witwer is a encyclopedia of Star Wars, too, and talking about the Sith and all this stuff. And Freddy said... Ezra, excuse me. Taylor would look at me and go, well, that makes sense. He goes, bro, no. So it's interesting that even he, as an actor, was like, well, that does make sense. But then you had Freddy over like, well, if, you know, it's so... I feel like that...
That's funny.
Especially when they're recording together, I think it helped.
Yeah, recording together, I think helps too.
So Ezra says he knows how Maul feels, and I love how after he says that, Maul kind of turns with this grin on his face, like, I've got him.
I've got my claw in him.
His sorrow turns to anger as he describes what the Empire has done to him, but he doesn't want revenge, he wants justice. Old Master asserts him that he will help him get justice if they can get to the temple and defeat the Sith. Meanwhile, Chopper makes his way to the Inquisitor's tie, so it's confirmed that this is the ship they were tracking is this Inquisitor's tie. He hops inside before the enemy can get away, and the Eighth Brother is like filthy droid, and he just starts shooting at him and everything.
Yeah, Murderbot comes back.
So, Ezra and Maul reach their destination. He explains the key to unlocking the temple. So this is where we have this moment where we have all these doors they have to open together. So he kind of tells him, like, same thing, same old song and dance. Use your anger to fuel your emotions and use that to your advantage, which is what allows you to open the doors. And after they go through all these doors, which I found interesting in this, all these steps they go through, this is a Sith Temple. So it's for a master, just like Jedi, there are master and apprentices in Sith. Mm-hmm. The only difference is, at any point in these trials, if you want to talk, or I don't want to call them trials, but like barriers, you could choose to kill each other.
The person that's, yeah.
So they totally just drop the door on him, but he still needs him.
Yeah. Plus, how do you get back out?
Yeah.
You know? He does sort of that, and for me, it's like, was Ezra using the dark side to open these doors?
I think so.
I think so, because he was tapping into some emotion here, and then Ezra just kind of like, almost collapses, and then Maul actually puts a hand on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Almost in of like a, like, gives me the ick. Like, it's like, you're my apprentice now, and just being very possessive, and I don't like it. But I can't remember what he was saying. I was too disturbed by the hand on the shoulder, because it just brought me back to Anakin and Palpatine. Like, I just kept thinking of that. I'm like, please don't do this. Like, no, don't go that way. But I don't remember what they were talking about.
I don't either, but this is where he lets his guard down and tells him, my name's Ezra, my real name.
Yeah.
And this was when Maul removes his little hoodie and says, I'm called Maul, which Sam Witwer delivered this so disturbingly chilling. Yeah, it still gives me chills. Mm-hmm. But it will never compare to the chills I felt when we first watched this episode.
Oh yeah, it was raining outside and it was thunderstorming, and yeah. And I think I screamed. Like, I knew it was him, and I was still like, oh my gosh.
And after this moment, if you're watching on Disney XD like we were, it went to commercial. Mm-hmm. So you're like, okay, well, So meanwhile, Ahsoka and Kanan have caught the Inquisitor and they're interrogating him. He tells them he's hunting a shadow. Which is obviously Maul.
It's a callback to Shadow Collective, but it's just a callback to, or I guess a metaphor for what Maul sort of becomes to the Empire. He's a shadow. He's elusive. We don't know where he's at. We keep tracking him. We can't get a hold of him. And I mean,
he's like a loose end.
He's a loose end. And he wants Sidious gone. He wants Palpatine dead.
Right.
And they can't have him wandering around. So, that's when they come upon the Sith holocron.
Okay, and it's on that, like, this weird looking thing in like a little platform or whatever.
And then when you touch it, it pulls Indiana Jones and almost goes up to the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, he throws Ezra over there with the Force, and Ezra's able to get it, but the walls start to, like, shake, and, like, the platform he's on is almost, like, going to crush him if he doesn't, like, jump. So, Ezra continues to trust Maul because he tells him to jump. He does jump. Then we have this eerie thing of Maul's able to use the Force to, like, pull him up to the ledge, but he doesn't grab Ezra. He grabs the holocron.
He's going when he's after.
In his hand. And it was odd enough for me that he would actually pull Ezra up. But, again, I think it's still a matter of, I need you in this moment.
You see this moment of him grabbing his hand. I remember watching it, and our dad goes, well, he's got what he wants. But then he pulled Ezra up. I'm like, wait. And then he says, you were wise to trust me. I'm like, I don't, though. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Because he still needs him. Because at the very top of this temple, where you place the holocron to power this battle station, you need two people.
Yeah, so it's a matter of not only, like, needing an apprentice or being genuine or really being trusting. It's like, I need this person, and right now, you're trusting me the most, so, I'm going to use you later.
Exactly. Ahsoka and Kanan stand on the outside of the Sith Temple with the Inquisitor. Of course, Seventh Sister and Fifth Brother show up, and they kind of go into battle, which I'm going to hot take here, which is not really a hot take, because a lot of people hated this. When they use their lightsabers to helicopter away, I don't know
several times, not just once, several times.
I don't know how I felt about that.
It was weird. I thought it was weird, but it felt very video game-ish to me. Like, we hit the boss once. They gotta fly away, they gotta come back, and you gotta hit them 2 more times or something.
Well, someone online brought up a good point later on down the road when they just, when Maul starts killing off these Inquisitors. Why do you gotta use the steps to go to the temple? Grab one of those sabers and just fly up. Someone mentioned that on the internet.
My brain quit working. What?
Like, why are we going up steps? Why are we using the lifts? Why are
I
we...
guess I've been yeah. Just to separate them. Stupid writers. You had a way, you had transportation, and you wanted to separate them on 2 different lifts. Yeah, I see what you're doing.
So Ahsoka and Kanan are fighting them, and then Maul shows Ezra that the holocron can open these doors now, and when the door arises, it shows Ahsoka and Kanan battling Inquisitors, and of course Ezra runs out. He's like, it's fine.
I got help. Cut to the eyes in the shadows, and then he just sort of walks out, and Ahsoka immediately knows who he is. Their last meeting was in season 7 that didn't come out till later. I believe Kanan knows who this is,
I'm sure,
obviously. Yeah. So it's just kind of funny that he runs up, hey, I brought help. And they look and it's Maul. Like,
That's
what?
not help, Ezra.
I'm sorry, what?
That is not help. The Seventh Sister questions Maul's motives, assuming he has already taken the holocrons. Even they're aware of what his motives are.
is, yeah.
Ahsoka asks him about the game he seems to be playing. He has that creepy line of the end game.
Which is not, later on we figure out in season 7 of Clone Wars, that's not the first time he's told her that.
Really?
There's a scene in season 7 where he actually offers his hand to Ahsoka and says, we both want the same thing. Initially, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen season 7, rabbit hole. The only reason that he wanted to take control of Mandalore is because he believed that they were going to send Obi-Wan and Anakin. And he could kill both of them so the Sidious wouldn't have a Padawan and he wouldn't become Darth Vader.
What?
So he gets pissed off when Ahsoka shows up. That's not who he initially wanted to be there. He wanted it to be Obi-Wan and Anakin. So he could topple Sidious' plan.
Wow.
So he actually offers her hands like, no, we're fighting the same thing, but
Yeah.
she doesn't go for it, you know.
He tells Ezra, the Sith is my enemy. The Inquisitors are my enemy. He left one out.
Yeah.
The Jedi are his enemy.
Yeah.
So basically everybody in the
Yeah.
whole stinking world is his enemy, essentially. He's got a lot of hate. He's got a lot of issues. Maul believes they can work together, but he warns that Vader will be coming soon. Now, how he knew this, I'm not sure. He says they're going to tell him our location or something like
gotcha.
that. Kanan is not convinced that Maul will help them take on Vader or that Maul really is on their side. Ezra assures his master to trust him and shows them the holocron. Ahsoka tells him there's no way a Jedi can unlock that holocron, but Maul assures Ezra that he can unlock the temple itself. And he tells him, put the holocron in the obelisk in the chamber to activate the temple. Kanan is skeptical, but agrees as Maul leads the way. Kanan and Ezra argue about Maul's intentions until they are joined by an Inquisitor in flight, lifted by the blades of his lightsaber. Oh, boy. Kanan is knocked over, and the Inquisitor fights Ezra for the holocron. Maul strikes just in time, sending the Inquisitor careening away, his saber acting like a helicopter. I don't know how many times they do this in this episode.
Yeah, several times.
And I think there's a part where Maul's like, we should like cover more ground and split up. I'm like, no, you know what you're doing, Maul.
Yeah,
you know
on the
what you're
lifts.
doing.
Like, take one of those lightsabers. You don't have to split up. But then he says something like, well, we should go with the weakest link, which is Ezra. He's less trained than all of them. So,
Mm-hmm. And Kanan's not thrilled about the idea, and Ezra's like, Kanan, well, you should trust me, you know. And I'm like, and you had this moment where Kanan looks at Ahsoka, and she kind of nods, like, well, let him, you know.
I'll figure it out, I guess. Yeah.
And on the way up, this is where Maul, he's still digging his claws in, saying, like, you should fight without mercy or remorse because it gives you more power and more strength to fight your enemies and all this. Meanwhile, Kanan and Ahsoka are kind of talking about, like, he's worried about him. She's like, well, you shouldn't be because, you know, you taught him, you know.
It's sort of like that parent. It's like you can't worry. I mean, you're going to worry, but you can't, like, control every decision. You have to only hope that they do
What you've
taught them. Yeah.
The seventh sister then approaches, and Kanan and Ahsoka are immediately met by the fifth brother. And this is where they kind of meet up, and Maul, like, kind of force chokes her up, and he tells Ezra to kill her.
Strike her down. Yeah.
And he hesitates, of course, because he never killed anybody before. Maul gets tired of that crap, and he kills her. Which, I know it doesn't show her death, but I feel like the way it did it was more chilling.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, I mean, yeah, people saying, well, dude, why didn't it show it? Like, violence for the sake of violence is one thing, but to me, it added something that you just see her fall.
You can think of... Your imagination can do a lot of things that visually, I think, is more chilling, I think, like you said. But also, you have to remember, I'm not playing Sith Advocate here. She's about to kill Ezra. I'm just saying, like, she was totally playing this helpless act, like, don't kill me. And then when he looks down, she smiles before Maul kills her. And then Maul has that line of, like, next time you hesitate, like, it might be your friends that get hurt. You know, there it is, bringing up the attachment and, like, the manipulation tactics. Yeah.
I knew we were going to get in this argument about Sith and Jedi. I knew it. You're like, well, she's gone. Will you try to get rid of her?
Isn't that what we came here for? I don't know.
So Ezra goes on his way up to the temple. Maul then helps Kanan and Ahsoka defeat the rest of them because he kills the rest. Well, he kills the fifth brother.
He kills the fifth brother, and then I believe the... No, he kills the eighth brother. The fifth brother, he...
No, it's the fifth brother he like, stabs.
Okay. Who
was
was the one
the
that
eighth
tried to
brother
get away?
tried to get away, and it was, like, broken and stuff, and, like, he just fell off the temple. Kanan asks, where's Ezra? And then Maul responds, I'm sorry, I get chills every time I think about it. You mean my apprentice? In an instant, the dark side force wielder slashes Kanan in the face with his double-bladed saber. The Jedi falls, covering his eyes, and Ahsoka takes up arms. I will never forget where I was when this happened. Because it was so shocking, and it doesn't even give you time to recover to what's happened. Because it's like slash, red screen. And I remember on Tumblr, they kept sharing that dang red screen, like trauma. Thanks for traumatizing us, Filoni. And, you know, Maul has that monologue of like, haha, moo-ha, I'm winning, I've won, you know, and all that stuff. It doesn't give you time to recover because immediately it goes to Ezra putting the holocron in the thing.
Yeah, that kind of floats it from his hand and sets off the electric charge. Yeah, I think there are a lot of times in the episode where it's like, because already know something's going to happen, and then we have the part we didn't talk about because it kind of skipped over in the plot, was Ezra almost got his hand chopped off at one point.
Yes.
We were like, well, is this really happening? To Kanan got slashed in the face. I don't even know if he's going to survive at this point. Like, he looks okay, but maybe his eyes are completely gone. Like, yeah, it definitely, Steel, the way that is, I guess because it's so quick, just takes your breath away. You're like, oh, wait, what? And then, like, you can't really catch up, but I think that's done on purpose.
And this moment is when I was like, I have no idea what to expect from here on out, from this episode.
Yeah, I think that too, but also, just because knowing Maul, I knew he was going to do something, but I didn't expect that.
I didn't either.
I expected him to try to kill him, but not... Maybe, he did try to kill him, but, like, not blind him in that way.
Yeah. So Ezra reaches the top of the temple with a holocron. It floats from his hands into the obelisk, and it sets off a current paired with a female voice, which I believe this is Nika Futterman,
who
voices Saj Ventress.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Ventress. I think they just brought her back to do this voice. It's not Ventress, but... The voice beckons who comes forth. Ezra explains he is seeking knowledge, and creepy voice says the knowledge is power. And this giant laser shoots from the top of the temple and up through the ground above. Maul battles Ahsoka, telling her that Ezra will soon be his and he cannot be stopped. Kanan, meanwhile, fumbles to grab a temple guard mask nearby. He dons the mask and orders Ahsoka to get Ezra and takes her spot in the fight against Maul. And then we go to this little... I say little fight because it doesn't last very long between Kanan and Maul. And it's very samurai, but also early teachings with...
That's the first thing that I think that younglings use. Even Luke with the blast shield. Yeah. You understand how to use things outside of your eyes, your senses. Mm-hmm. So you're using the force around you to understand reach out and interpret the world than just by seeing, which I think helps Kanan in this instance because of his training, but also Maul obviously is underestimating him. He doesn't believe that he can do that.
But also, I think, like you said, other senses take over, but I also think the Force takes over is more greater. I feel like,
you're more in tune with it because you're not relying on your eyes.
Right. So he grabs, first he fights him for a little bit, then he grabs him by the wrist and hurls him off the side of the platform. Now, why he didn't die from this, I have no idea.
Like the
eighth brother.
Yeah. Because plot. They needed him later, I guess. I like how Kanan fights him completely blind, though. That's pretty dope. Mm-hmm. It even does like a backwards kind of stance with the lightsaber. It's pretty cool.
Oh, after he falls, Chopper's voice comes from the comm, and Kanan orders a pickup, but he learns there's another TIE fighter en route. Ezra, still at the top of the temple, is told by the voice that he now has the power to destroy life. Realizing he was tricked by Maul, he runs to find Ahsoka and Kanan, but instead is met by Darth Vader himself, slowly descending atop his TIE fighter. And this image is very powerful. Mm-hmm. And after Kanan got blinded, I didn't know what to expect from here on out.
I thought Ezra was not going to die, but obviously be very gravely injured, possibly.
Yeah. And he asked him how did he unlock the secret at the temple, and it's creepy. Well, it's kind of interesting that Ezra's like, you're smart, figure it out. But again, he has no idea. Still has no idea who he's dealing with.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But still, not even knowing who Vader is, look at him. Like, that's an imposing dude. And so it's for Ezra to just be like, you figure it out. You know, being very quippy and smart. Maybe that's the 15-year-old in him, but I would be scared. Like, I would be really afraid. I wouldn't say anything. Yes, sir. Whatever you want.
He hurls a heavy blow at Ezra, knocking him over, and this is where he breaks his lightsaber. Before he can kill Ezra, Ahsoka arrives. And, of course, this is the moment everybody on the internet wanted to happen, wanted to see. This seeing them, not only just Ahsoka and Anakin, but, like, Ahsoka and Vader. It was built up in this season to happen. He says our long-awaited meeting has come at last. He's seeking the remaining Jedi, and she says, well, the Inquisitors took care of them. She acknowledges his past as her master, but he dismisses it by calling Anakin weak. And she says she'll avenge him, and he says, revenge is not the Jedi way. And she says, I am no Jedi. She ignites her lightsabers and begins to attack. As they fight, Ezra attempts to take the hologram from the obelisk, but he is unsuccessful. And then we have this part where Kanan appears, and he says it takes a master and an apprentice, which tells us, oh, that's why Maul was using you.
Yeah.
But Chopper's leading him.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
Which Ezra doesn't really understand until he's like, why is Chopper holding her? And then he looks up and he notices the mask is on his face. And that's when he says, Kanan, your eyes. He's like, well, we gotta take care of this or something. And kind of just brushes it off. Yeah. Seeing him guided by Chopper is pretty heartbreaking, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
Vader and Ahsoka continue to forcibly duel. She uses, the stuff she's known for, which I've talked about before, is acrobatics and flipping and all kinds of crazy stuff. But he pushes her off the platform and she falls below again, I guess because they weren't high enough or why she didn't die. So many questions about how high do you need to be up to be that.
I mean, let's be honest. That was a pretty good fall for all of them when they fell through the floor.
That's true.
At the beginning.
That's true. Chopper has arrived with the Phantom, but just before they make it to safely, this part scared me so bad. When Ezra's hand flies and he's like, Kanan, it's him. He's like, no. Like, I think that was us as the audience.
Yeah. Even the fact that Kanan can even sense who it is. Like, I know it's him. He's got Ezra by the hand. Yeah, very, very creepy.
Of course, Ahsoka lunges from behind and catches him off guard, slashing him in the mask with her saber. Ezra yells for her to hurry and join them, but Vader's next words stop her in her tracks. He says her name, which it's so creepy because it's James Earl Jones and Matt Lanter together. which to me was so chilling and so very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this image of, there's a lot of very good imagery in this episode.
Yeah.
Showing Anakin, and I think that was pretty powerful for her too, because she hasn't seen him in so long, and now she's seen.
I think had the mask not been slashed, she might have.
Yeah.
But seeing behind the mask of who he used to be kind of stops. She's like, well, maybe I can save you. Like, no, hun, sorry. Like, I mean, you don't know this. We know this as viewers.
Yeah.
It's not when he's going to turn back to being good.
Exactly.
But I think seeing that part of him, I think really, like, oh, I don't know. It's almost like not a trauma response, but there's a lot of history there. And so behind the mask, like, you see that, you're like, oh, I should probably stick around for a little bit. See what I can do.
Sad.
Yeah.
She tells him that she won't leave him, not this time, which is calling back to when she left
The Order. Yeah. And Kevin's music score.
Oh my gosh, Kevin Kiner, we bow to you, sir. This music is amazing through this episode.
Yeah, it is.
And he responds, "Then you will die," but I notice he doesn't have James Earl Jones. It's Matt.
Yeah. It's completely
which
Matt
is so Ezra yells for her, but she force pushes him backward and the temple wall lowers. He joins Kanan and the Phantom. They escape the Horde just as it explodes in this beam of light. I think this moment where, like, Ezra's falling apart at this moment. Like, all this trauma this kid went through in this episode is, like, a lot. And Kanan, too. Mm-hmm. They return to Adelon. Again, this music here. The rest of this episode is just music. There's no more talking after this. It's all music. They return to Adelon. Ezra helps Kanan out of the shuttle to the waiting members of the Ghost crew. Hera runs toward him and embraces him. Vader emerges from the rubble. Of course, he's kind of beat up and he's kind of limping a little bit. A convoy flies from the top of the temple, and an image of the back of Ahsoka is seen walking back down into the temple. Back on the Ghost, Ezra holds the holocron. It levitates in his palm, and his eyes reflect the beaming red light. This episode, like we've talked about it before, after this it changed the direction of the show. Not only did it change the direction of the show, it just we're so low for our characters. Where we go from here?
Yeah. I do think it's interesting. The last line we hear is Kanan's voice before it goes to the musical montage. Is "It's over." But it's interesting because with season 3, even if you don't know, like, well, no, it's not over. There's gonna be more challenges. Obviously, with Kanan losing his sight, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And then Ezra now has this Sith holocron that he's just gonna fiddle with, which I have issues with. But, like,
yeah, we'll get into that.
We'll get into that later. But yeah, it does end on a very ominous note, which people were asking, well, did he use the dark side? And we'll get to that later, but they're like, was that just the reflection of the...
That was a controversy.
That was a controversy.
Yeah.
Like, was it just the light from the holocron, or did he have the Sith eyes? I'm like, I don't think you get Sith eyes until you're at least like a level 3 Sith or something. you have to murder a bunch of people before you get there. Yeah.
What would you rate this episode?
I'd say maybe an 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the helicopter sabers until you mentioned it.
I didn't either until someone
And now that you've said
it.
that, I can't get it out of my head. The music's really good. The imagery is pretty solid. The writing's pretty solid.
Oh, man. And this began... I guess Sam did a good job. This began my absolute hatred of Darth Maul.
Because he blinded Kanan?
Yes. He could have done anything else, and I'm not saying I would have understood it. But that killed my soul. And I was like, okay, he needs to die. Oh, man, this is a heavy episode, though.
Yeah, it's a heavy emotional one. Seeing Kanan and Hera hug at the end was really sad.
Yeah.
Because they said that they would see each other again. Fans caught it, and they don't. When
I
he
didn't
comes
catch
back.
it. I did not catch it because I was too in shock from this whole episode.
Yeah. It's hard to think about symbolism when you're thinking about just the plot.
Until later, people were like, we'll see each other again. I didn't realize they meant it literally. Thank you, writers. They literally meant that literally. Oh, dude. Oh, man. Well, that wraps up season 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go right into season 3. Just a turning point.
Big turning point for the show.
Yep.